everyone, and welcome back to Cardiac Radio for Teens. For those of you who may not know, I'm Bia, and Cardiac Radio for Teens is a place where teens can get together with teens and learn and talk about spiritism. Because sometimes we find it really hard to just listen to adults lecture or to read a book with complicated words, so when we put in our own words and our own terms that we use every day, we can make it easier to understand amongst us teens. Just a little heads up that I'm starting to have a bit of a cold, so if my voice sounds a little funny, I apologize. As I'm sure you all know by now, we have started the habit of reading the Spirits book together each week. It can be very hard for us sometimes in our busy school day schedules to find time to just sit down and read a book because we have school books to read, we have homework to do, we have so much stuff going on that it's hard to find a time to just sit down and read. So hopefully, by doing it together, by doing it a little bit each week, we'll be able to really learn and reflect on it throughout the week and make it bearable and more understanding. With that said, let's get right to it. Last week we left off on part 15 of the introduction. As much as the introduction may seem boring, and it may be that part of the book that you always just skip over and you just go straight to chapter 1, the introduction is really important because it sets the basis of the knowledge that we need to know to go further into this book. If we don't know the basic knowledge in the beginning in this introduction, then we won't be able to understand the questions to come in the rest of the book. So it's really important that we go through the introduction and make sure we understand it. So part 15. There are still individuals who see peril everywhere and in everything they are unfamiliar with, and there is no lack of those who draw unfavorable conclusions about Spiritism from the fact that some individuals have become so involved in studying it that they have lost their minds. But how could reasonable people accept this argument? Does the same not happen with the intellectual pursuit in the mind is weak? How many lunatics and maniacs have been produced by the study of mathematics, medicine, music, philosophy, etc.? Should we therefore ban studying them? What does that prove? Through physical labor, one can injure one's arm and legs, the instruments of physical action. Through mental labors, one can injure the brain, the instruments of thought. However, even if the instrument is broken, the spirit is not, it remains intact. Once freed from matter, it will again enjoy the fullness of its faculties. In its field, and as an individual, it is simply a martyr to its work. So this part in the introduction is saying how some people think, some people automatically think that they're losing their mind because of Spiritism stuff, but there are also people who lose their minds, who are mathematicians, who study medicine, who study music, who study philosophy. So just because it happens a few times in a certain subject doesn't mean that subject is incorrect altogether and we have to throw it away completely. There's always going to be these few cases, but we can't just rely on those few cases to be like, okay, let's abandon the whole idea. All great intellectuals' pursuits may cause madness. The science, the arts, even religion, have all supplied their contagious. Insanity has an organic predisposition of the brain as its primary cause, making it more susceptible or less so to certain impressions. Whenever this predisposition exists, it shows up in a person's main preoccupation, turning it into a fixation. It may be about spirits for those who occupy themselves with that particular subject. It may involve God, angels, the devil, fortune, power, the arts, a science, motherhood, or a political or social theory. Victims of religious insanity would probably become insane spiritists if Spiritism were their predominant preoccupation, just as insane spiritists would express their madness under any form if the circumstances were different. I therefore state that Spiritism is not especially privileged in this respect. However, I will go even further and state that Spiritism, rightly understood, is a safeguard against insanity. So here they were just enforcing that idea that it can't just be Spiritism. There's madness in people that always exists, and it just depends So if someone's, say, if they have that in their brain of insanity or something, and then they just are in that field, they're going to associate it with whatever they were doing, whatever they were involved with. But they're saying that they're not going to say that Spiritism is especially privileged and different from all the other things, but it's just going to say that it is a safeguard against insanity, that it'll help you to not go insane, basically. And then it continues. Among the most frequent causes of cerebral overexcitement, we should count disappointments, misfortunes, and broken hearts, which are all the most frequent causes of suicide. But true Spiritists see things from this world from a much higher point of view. They seem tiny and petty to them in light of future awaiting them. Life is so short and fleeting that its troubles seem like nothing more than an unpleasant incident of a journey. Things that in other individuals would produce violent emotions affect Spiritism but little, for they know that life's sorrows are trials that lead to advancement, if they endure them without complaining, and they will be rewarded according to their courage with which they have borne them. Their conviction gives them a resignation that the safeguard against them despair, a frequent cause of insanity and suicide. Furthermore, through Spiritist communications, Spiritists know the fate of those who intentionally shorten their days, and the picture of insufficient to make them stop and think. Thus, the number of us who have been deterred at the brink of that deadly precipice is considerable, one of the results of Spiritism. The incredulous can laugh all they want. Nevertheless, I wish for them the same consolidation Spiritism has provided to all those who have put forth the effort to probe its mysterious depths. So in that little section, they were talking about how a lot of things that cause people suicide and cause people a lot of trouble and sorrows in their life and cause them not even suicide but just depression, a lot of mental health issues. These things are caused by problems that we have in our life, like they were saying, heartbreak and so on. So with Spiritism, we can see that life continues on after this, and that this life is so short, and that in reality this thing that may seem like a big problem to us, it's just a little bump in the road that we need to get over to be able to advance and to become better spirits. So as Spiritists, we have that we know that this isn't the end of the world, and we know the consequences, that suicide isn't going to end it, because our life is going to continue afterwards. And we're going to suffer a lot if we commit suicide. So they're saying that's why Spiritism is a sort of safeguard towards insanity, because we know that ending our lives now isn't going to end everything, because there's still going to be consequences after that. And then it continues. Among the causes of insanity, we must also include fear. For instance, fear of the devil has deranged more than a few minds, and those who know the numbers of victims whose weak imaginations have been impressed with the threat of the devil, a threat which becomes even more terrifying through hideous details. Some say that the devil, as well as the boogeyman and the werewolf, is only used to frighten children in order to make them behave. However, when these children no longer fear the devil, they become naughtier than ever. In trying to control their behavior, those who use such stories do not take into account the mental health risks of scaring such delicate minds. Religion would be quite weak if a lack of fear were to compromise its power. Fortunately, this is not the case. Religion has other ways of acting on soul, and Spiritism could furnish it with highly effective and serious tools, if religion knew how to utilize them. Spiritism shows the reality of things, and thus neutralizes dreadful effects of exaggerated fear. So here they're saying how sometimes people are so scared of something, like scared of the devil. They don't want to do anything wrong just because they're scared. But that's not really the way we want to work things. We want people to do the right thing because it is the right thing, not just because they're scared of something, not just because they're scared of the devil, scared to be punished. We want them to do the right thing because they should know that that's the right thing to do. And here they're saying that Spiritism shows the reality of things without having to have such a fear on the people that something bad's going to happen to them. They're just showing the reality and the neutrality of judgeful exaggerations like that. And now we're on to part 16 on the introduction. Two objections still remain to be examined. The only ones that really deserve the label because they are supported by rational theories. Both accept the reality of all the material mental phenomena, but they discount the intervention of spirits. According to the first of these theories, all the manifestations attributed to spirits are merely effect of magnetism, and mediums remain in a state known as waking somnolence, a phenomenon witnessed by those who have studied magnetism. In this state, the mental faculties require an abnormal development, and the circles of intuitive perception are intentionally beyond the limits of ordinary perception. In this state, mediums draw from themselves their own lucidity, all they say, and all the ideas they transmit, even regarding matters that are foreign to them in their normal state. So here they're saying that one theory that people have to go against Spiritism that sometimes could be proven. There's an actual reason why they think that what Spiritism is saying is incorrect, is because they're saying that they could be in a state of waking somnolence, which is a mental thing that takes the person kind of out from their not out from their bodies, but in their minds. They're just not themselves per se. So, and then they're just writing stuff that may be foreign to them, but it actually is from themselves. It's not from a spirit. That's what this theory is saying. We will not be the ones who contest the power of somnolence, since we have witnessed its wonders by having studied all its facets over 35 years. In fact, we agree that many spirit manifestations may be explained in this way. Nevertheless, extensive and conscientious observation has showed us a multitude of occurrences in which any participation by the medium, except as a passive instrument, is materially impossible. To those who share in this theory, we will therefore say, as we have already said to others, watch and observe, for you are certainly not seeing everything yet. Next, we will contrast two considerations taken from their own doctrine. Where did the spirits theory come from? Is it a theory dreamed up by a few individuals in order to explain the phenomenon? Not at all. But then, who did reveal it? The very mediums whose ludicity they extol. So here, before we continue on, because that goes on to a long paragraph, what they were saying in the beginning over here is that this is the somnolence that people think it is, that it's a really reasonable thing to think because it could be seen. But what the spirits say is that watch and observe some more because you're not seeing everything yet. That's not it. Like, you're not seeing everything yet, so there's something more to it. But it is a reasonable doubt for people to have, but they need to watch and observe and learn more to see that it's truly not somnolence. So then it continues. However, if this lucidity is as great as they presume, why would these mediums have attributed to spirits what they supposedly produce themselves? How could they give such precise, logical, sublime information regarding the nature of superhuman intelligences? One of two things applies. Either they are lucid or they are not. If they are, and if we can rely on their truthfulness, then it would be contradictory to claim that they do not speak the truth. Second, if all the phenomena produced from the medium themselves, They should always be identical for the same individual, and we would not observe the same person communicating in different languages or alternately expressing matters that are completely contradictory. This lack of unity in the manifestation obtained by the same mediums proves the diversity of their sources, and since we cannot find all these sources in the medium, we must look elsewhere. So here they're saying that, well, first they start off by saying that, of course, Spiritism, the theory, wasn't just drawn up by a few individuals. It was by many, many spirits who were influencing this idea of Spiritism. And also, here they're saying how if it was only the mediums, if it was only a waking state of somnolence and nothing else, then these mediums would all be speaking in the same language, in the same tone of voice, and they would have the same ideas. But when one medium is writing in a whole bunch of different languages about a whole bunch of different things, and even maybe the same thing, but in different ideas, then obviously it has to be coming from somewhere else other than just the medium. And then there's the second theory. According to the second theory, mediums really are the source of the manifestation, but instead of producing them from within themselves, they draw them from their surroundings. The medium is kind of a mirror, reflecting all the thoughts, ideas, and knowledge of other participants. Thus, the medium reveals nothing that is not known to at least some of the others. We cannot deny, and from this arise one of the fundamental principles of the doctrine. We cannot deny the participants' influence on the nature of the manifestations. But this influence is very different from what is assumed here, and there is a great distance between it and the medium being the mere echo of the thoughts of others, because thousands of occurrences have prematurely showed just the opposite. Therefore, this theory contains a serious error, which once again proves the danger of premature conclusions. Since those who hold to this theory are unable to deny the existence of the phenomenon that ordinary science cannot explain, and since they cannot accept the intervention of spirits, they explain the matter in their own way. So here they're saying that the second theory is that some people believe that the medium is a mirror reflecting the ideas and the thoughts of the people around him. So maybe it's not himself. He realizes that, okay, it can't be one person coming up with all these ideas, but maybe he's mirroring the thoughts of the others around him, the other human beings around him. So then he's taking ideas from all of them. But they're saying that that there's been thousands of tests with this, and it shows that maybe none of these people thought this idea, and now all of a sudden the idea comes, so it's proven that this can't be true. But they say we can't deny that the participants don't have an influence, because they do have an influence if they're sitting around there. Who they're thinking about might influence what spirits come, and that sort of thing. But they're saying that it's not directly from just only the thoughts of the participants around. Their theory would be allured if it could explain all the phenomena, but it cannot. And when the evidence obviously shows that some of the communications through the mediums are entirely foreign to the thought, knowledge, and opinions of any of those who are present, and that they often spontaneous and contradict all preconceived ideas, our opponents have not bothered in the least by this fact. They respond that through waves, that thought waves go far beyond the immediate circle, and that mediums are a reflection of all humankind. Thus, if they cannot receive inspiration from their immediate surroundings, they go in search of it elsewhere, in city, country, the entire world, or even other spheres. We do not believe that this theory offers a simpler and more plausible explanation than that given to us by Spiritism, since it is supposed a much more incredulous cause. The notion that universal space is full of beings who are in continuous contact with us and who communicate their ideas to us is no more shocking to our reason than the supposition of universal thought waves coming from every point in the universe to converge on the mind of a single individual. So here they're saying that in this theory, they think that, okay, maybe it's not the participants just nearby, but maybe it's all the participants, maybe it's everyone in the city, in the country, in the world, in the universe. So there's these thought waves that are just coming from all over the place, from all different types of beings, all to this one medium, and that's how they're receiving it. And while they say that this is wrong, they're also showing that if people believe that there's thought waves coming from all over the universe, why can't it just be thought waves from spirits? Why can't the spirits be communicating with us? And then it continues. We would repeat, and this is the crucial point that we must insist on, that the somnambulance theory and the one we may call the reflection theory were dreamed up by certain persons, that the individual's opinions that were formulated to explain a phenomenon, while the doctrine of the spirits is not a human concept at all. It was revealed by the manifesting intelligences themselves, when no one had ever imagined it, and when general opinion was opposed to it. So right there they're saying that these theories are made by people who were trying to explain the phenomena, but the spirits doctrine itself was created by the spirits who were communicating and who were sharing their ideas, not by the people at all, the human people. Then it continues. Therefore we must ask, where did mediums come up with a doctrine that did not exist in the thought of anyone on earth? Furthermore, is it not a strange coincidence that thousands of mediums scattered all over the entire globe, and who have never met one another before, all agreed on stating the same thing? If the first medium, who appeared in France, was influenced by opinions that had already been accepted in America, what a strange impulse did he go in search of ideas 3,000 miles across the ocean, and among people whose habits and language were foreign to him, instead of taking what was immediately around him. There is another circumstance that has not received enough thought, however. The earliest manifestations, in both France and America, did not take place either by writing or by speech, but by a rasp corresponding to the letters of the alphabet to form words and sentences. This was the way that the manifesting intelligences originally declared themselves to be spirits. Therefore, even if we were to assume the intervention of the medium's own thought in the verbal or writing communication, the same could not be said regarding the raps. Their significance could have not been known beforehand. So here they're saying that even though some theories can say that it's just the medium's thought, when it was just the raps and just the table and the basket and that kind of thing, then the medium could have no idea beforehand what they were going to say, so that it couldn't have been the medium. We would cite numerous facts that demonstrate the presence of an obvious individuality with a complete independent will on the part of the manifesting intelligences. We invite our opponents to make a more careful observation, if they were to study the matters more closely without prejudice, and not draw any conclusions before having seen all that is necessary. They would recognize that the true ineffectiveness of their theory to explain all the facts. Why? We will limit ourselves to proposing the following questions. Why does the manifesting intelligences, whatever it may be, refuse to answer certain questions regarding subjects that are perfectly known about, such as the name and age of the questioner, what they have in their hand, and what they did yesterday, what they have intent to do tomorrow, etc.? If the medium is only a mirror reflecting of the thoughts of the participant, nothing should be easier to answer. In response, our adversaries ask us why spirits, who must know everything, cannot answer such simple questions, according to the axiom, whoever can do the most can do the least. Based on this, they conclude that the entities are not spirits at all. So here they're saying that some people saying that how come then if it is these spirits that are so intelligent, how come they can't answer the simple questions, the simple what did I do today, what's my name, what am I holding in my hand? And they're saying that people who don't believe it's spirits, they can say, oh well, that would be the easiest thing to answer, why don't they answer? And if it was the thought, if it was like the reflection theory that they were saying, if it was the thought of the others around them, that would be the easiest thing for them to answer of all. So why wouldn't they answer those questions? We in turn will respond by asking what would happen if an uneducated individual or a prankster appeared before a group of learning scholars and asked, for example, what makes the day so light at noontime? Do you think they would respond seriously, or would they be logical to conclude from the silence or the scorned direction of their questionnaire that they were all fools? It is precisely because such spirits are of a high order that they do not respond to idle or silly questions. They do not like to be cross-examined. That is why they still remain silent or adverse to us, that they will only concern themselves with more serious matters. So here it's saying that the spirits don't answer these type of questions because when you're talking to these serious high order spirits, they don't want to be just fooling around to just be cross-examined. They want to answer serious questions, give us serious information, but other than that, they don't need to be joking around and telling you what your name is when you already know that. Finally, we would ask why spirits come and go, often in an instant, and why neither prayer nor begging can make them return after they have gone. If a medium only acts under the mental impulse of the other participants, it would seem obvious that in such circumstances, the agreement of all the joined wills should be able to stimulate the medium's clairvoyance. Therefore, if the medium cannot comply with the wish of the other participants, even through concurring with his or her own will, it is because both the medium and the others are obeying an outside influence, and this influence is demonstrated in its own independence and individuality. So here they're just stating one more time that it can't just be because of the medium and the ones around it, because then they would be able to make things continue. If they want to keep talking to a spirit per se, and he left, they can't get him back. So if it was truly just by their thoughts, they would quickly be able to get the spirit or whoever it was back. And that is where we will leave off today. And next week we'll be finishing up the introduction, and then the week after that we'll finally get to start beginning chapter 1 with the questions. And just to end it off today, I'd like to read the message for today, October 18th, from the Daily Book of Positive Quotations. Playing as a team. The way a team plays as a whole determines its success. You may have the greatest bunch of individual stars in the world, but if they don't play together, the club won't be worth a dime. Babe Ruth. We value individual skills, celebrating them with praise, awards, and money. But few achievements are entirely the work of a single individual. The most involved collaborations to some degree. Personal success depends on not only individual performance, but on the support of colleagues, friends, and family. Learning how to use one's individual skills to work well in a group is a lifelong challenge. Luckily, it is also an enjoyable challenge. We can be proud when we have a personal success, but there's something especially wonderful about being a part of a team that's successful. I know how much I depend on the efforts and talents of those I work and play with. So I hope we can take what we talked about in the Spirit's book today and this last message throughout our week and to reflect on it and really put it to use about what we learned. I'm Bia. Thank you all for listening. This has been Kardec Radio for Teens. Thank you all for listening.